Hi guys, this is Max here, back again with hopefully another great political video, and today we got to talk about one of the most nasty aspects of election predictions, the polls. Now, first things first, I personally think polls are not the best source to get when it comes to making election predictions. They're just one element. You also need to consider stuff such as the popularity of the incumbent, national environments, local issues, and of course, more recent events. What we also have to consider is how accurate have polls been in the past when we make a prediction based on polling. Let's Talk Elections, I'm not afraid of mentioning his name, has a tendency of whenever he makes his predictions just copy pasting whatever Nate Silver writes on his website 538 and then calls it his own prediction. This map here on the left was the polling map of the 2020 presidential election, and it is almost identical, and I mean almost, maybe a few margins and a few states off. It's almost identical to the election predictions of Nate Silver and Ethan from Let's Talk Elections. On the right, we have the actual results. And I think it is not too difficult to say that a certain candidate is underestimated in the polling aggregate compared to his actual performance. Now, the polls right now for the midterm elections show the Republicans ahead narrowly. And some more recent polls I thought actually showed the Democrats ahead. So does this mean that 2022 is going to be a slightly lean Republican year, but not really? Or that it's going to be like a tiny red tide wave, but not a big thing? Wrong. Absolutely wrong. 2022 is going to be a red tsunami year. And even if the polls say it will be a lot closer, or it might even have the Democrats favored, that'll not be the case. Because it is an empirical fact that polls underestimate Republicans and tend to overestimate Democrats. Now, in the 2018 midterms, Democrats were slightly underestimated. However, that had to do with the fact that Donald Trump was the incumbent president, and that in a midterm election year, with certain factors going against the incumbent party, swing voters do tend to break against the incumbent in a last minute decision. I think the same thing will happen again in 2022, and that in a last minute effort, lots of voters are going to break for against Joe Biden. They're going to break for the Republicans. And if the polls, for example in Ohio, indicate a close race like they did in 2020, if they say Tim Ryan and JD Vance are neck and neck, you can basically take this as a granted that JD Vance is going to win by at least 8 to 10 points. If the polls say that in Florida, Governor DeSantis is down by 1 point, it probably means he's going to win by 12. And overall, there was almost not a single state in which Donald Trump was overestimated. The only thing that I could point out right away where Donald Trump performed better in the polling aggregate than in the actual election is Nebraska's 2nd District, which is lead on this map and likely here. We may not ignore the fact that polls have had a very bad history as of late, and that in 2020, a lot of folks that I knew said polls right now are more accurate than they've ever been, and Donald Trump is going to lose. No, that is not the case, and it is still not the case today. Even if the polls say that's going to be a close midterm election year, it doesn't mean that it will be a close midterm election year. And before I end this video, I want to point out how exactly the polls were off. Now, in both cases, they predicted 181 electoral votes for Joe Biden in the safe column. However, they projected almost half as many safe votes for Trump as he actually ended up getting. And most notably, in the polling aggregate, Joe Biden would have won the election by simply winning all the states he was projected to win by a lean margin. He could have even lost a few. In real life, tilt states decided by less than a percent, and not by a majority. He just won a plurality in those states. If 3 states, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Georgia, had voted for Donald Trump, Joe Biden would have lost the election. very narrowly, but he would have lost. And in this map that the polls predicted, even if Donald Trump had won Georgia and North Carolina, he would have had to pick up a few more states where Biden was supposed to win by between 2 and 5 percentage points in order to win the election. And especially Wisconsin, which was supposed to be a likely Biden state, he was ahead by 9 points. Ended up barely being a Biden victory in the end. So, in the end, I would like to tell you, please do not trust the polls. And especially in the Rust Belt area, the Midwest, they heavily overestimate the Democratic Party. Now, I hope you guys liked and enjoyed this video. If you did, likes, comments, and subscriptions are always greatly appreciated. And I hope I was able to give you a little insight into how polls can get stuff messed up. Also with Hispanic voters, by the way. Nobody saw the trend in the Rio Grande Valley in favor of Donald Trump coming. So do not trust the polls, do not trust the traditional election prediction institutions, and most importantly, do not trust Let's Talk Elections. Have a nice day. Goodbye. Max out.